Big Conversations, Little Bar, with your hosts Randy Florence and Patrick Evans, featuring candid conversations with the Coachella Valley's most interesting and influential people. Pull up a bar stool and enjoy Big Conversations, Little Bar.
Welcome to another edition of Big Conversation, Little Bar. I'm Patrick Evans, and I am joined, as I am every week, by my co-host, good friend, and very talented former banker. You don't look a day over 39. Randy Florence with us today on Big Conversations, Little Bar.
I feel so much younger than I did yesterday.
We want to give a shout out to Brian Blue Sky of the Desert Sun, who put a very nice article together and actually got us on the front page. That's the second time you've been on the front page. The first time was for that embezzlement charge, but that went away.
Well, that was only front page if you took out the sports section, because it was really buried very far in the back. You know, I was telling a couple of people today, I think it really says a lot more about the Valley than it does us that we were front page material on the local newspaper.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it was a slow news day. Look, I work in a newsroom. There are such things.
Yeah, you come up with stuff when it's slow.
There are days where, like, this would have never made air, but hey, it's a slow day.
On the weather next week, you'll be talking about a podcast.
My goodness. We're really pleased to be here from Skip's Little Bar, the center of the known universe in the Coachella Valley, and he has been a gracious host since we started this little thing.
He has. We were sitting over there at the corner of the bar having a couple of drinks, talking about the future of podcasts, and Skip decided the future of podcasts was us sitting over here in this corner bar, listening to the shakers and some words that come out of the bartenders at certain times, but it adds significantly to the ambience.
Skip was certainly a visionary at Golden Voice. I'm not sure that he's a podcast visionary, because this is what he ended up with. But here we are, and John McMullen, our producer, stalwart John, is over there manning the board.
Hey, I'm going to steal some stuff here so I can introduce our guest today. And I'm going to steal some stuff because he wrote his own introduction to a radio show he used to do, and it was so fantastic, I just thought, why should I try to reinvent something?
Perfect.
So our guest is Jimmy Francisco. Jimmy had his own radio show here in town, and again, stealing his intro, raising a family, running a business, getting involved in the community for 3 decades gives Jimmy a lot of street cred in the desert. Husband, father of 2, welding shop operator, smartass, golfer, football fanatic, girls soccer coach, therapist to his friends, and all-around good guy. Jimmy has his finger on a lot of pulses. Some of this I didn't read until just now.
I didn't write it either.
Okay, here's a little broadcasting clue.
Yeah.
Never
I think
read
McMullen wrote that.
Never read your copy cold.
Yeah.
No, before I've read.
Actually, McMullen wrote that.
Jimmy, welcome to the show.
Why, thank you.
Great to have you.
This is kind of we were talking about this yesterday. This is kind of a citizen of the Valley type of conversation here. You've been here since 1989.
I have. I love it here.
Now, where did you grow up? What brought you to the desert?
Atlantic City, New Jersey, and like most Italians, you either are running from the law or you follow a relative that was running from the law who happened to live in the desert, and you start your life.
As an Italian, I resemble that remark.
Are you going to mention any names?
No, we never talk about it. We never mention names. In fact, my name's really not Jimmy. It's actually Ignacio Raul Fernandez.
This will be the first picture of our podcast where the middle person is blurred out. Yeah.
Jimmy Francis asked not to be identified.
Yeah, so I moved here in 89 to go to college. Left Jersey, grabbed my car, loaded it up, grabbed my dog, and drove cross country to stay here with my uncle, get my residency, and transfer to a university somewhere in California. And I did. Went to the University of San Diego, met my wife right here in the desert. First week I was here at what was the Hard Rock and whatever that hotel. It used to be the Marquee Hotel downtown. And then it became the Hard Rock and Zoso,
Hotel Zoso,
and Hard Rock again and Zoso again, or whatever it is. It's going to be the McMullen soon, I hope. And we met first the day I was working. I was a bellman of valet. She was front desk and gift shop. She was like my best buddy. I mean, I was just trying to hit all of her friends at that point. You know, she's like, "Oh my God, look at these California girls. You know, this is amazing." And then she just kept reining me in, and she's been reining me in since '89.
So let me follow the path. You graduated from college and became a valet.
No, I graduated high school, came out here, was a valet, went to COD for a year, and then followed my wife to University of San Diego.
Got it. What did you take there?
Business administration, management, and marketing minors. Yeah.
And did that pretty much point you to your future careers?
At first, it did not. I was getting ready for law school, and my father-in-law, who owned Palm Springs Welding here, and my wife wanted to take over the company because she was also a business admin grad, but on the economics and accounting side, you have all the personality. Don't go to law school. Come up here, run the company. I tell the story, but uses a couple of bad words.
It's okay.
So
we've had a couple of guests on here.
And then, my father-in-law told me, he goes, you're an a-hole, but you're not that kind of a-hole. So why don't you come back and learn to run the business and have a good life? I know you love the desert. And I'm like, I do. And I love your daughter. So moved back up, started taking over the company. In the first 2 years, I swept the floors, cut material, trying to learn everything from the bottom up. I'm like, if I'm going to run this place, I need to learn it. And got to be able to do everything that the guys could do. And then was out on a job site, saw structural steel going up at a house at Bighorn. And I'm like, why don't we do that? Well, if you want to get the license, go for it. But that's a lot of work. And I'm like, on it. So we got the license. And then we went from 12 employees to 30 to 50 to 60 to... Wow.
Now, they started in 1964?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was really kind of...
Coming up on our 60th anniversary.
Yeah, and the infrastructure of this valley was really starting to grow incredibly.
Yeah, it was a lot different back then.
And you guys had... Palm Springs Welding had a big piece of some of that. I mean, you've worked on some historical stuff in town.
Yeah, we did all this stuff downtown at the Vineyard. We did the Palm Springs Arch, was one of the first things I was involved with when I moved down here, that arch over downtown. Everything by that goofy fountain, and all the stuff downtown. And yeah, so we've done a lot. And we did the Classic Club Clubhouse. That was a massive job.
Now, so tell me about how you kind of changed the complexion of the business when you did the structural steel part, because it was a different business.
It was mom and pop. You need a gate, we'll make you a gate. Fences, anything that was going on. And when I got in, like a few weeks after I started the shop, a law went into effect here in the Valley or in California where you had to enclose all your pools.
Right.
So I'm like, we got to be on this, and we just started going out every HOA and started, doing pool fences. We had a backlog of 4 years at one point.
Wow.
Of just pool fences. I'm like, okay, that's good. Let's keep that going.
I feel like I replaced my gate maybe a couple of weeks
2 weeks too quick.
Yeah.
You might have.
Well, when it falls apart, you'll be able to.
That's right.
We get that a lot.
Work with Jimmy.
I'll get Jimmy's number.
I paid this guy to do my gate, and and then I gave him the money, and he never showed back up. I'm like, well, that's weird. Okay, well, here's what we do, and we need a 15% deposit. Well, I'm not giving you any money. Well, then you're not getting a gate. You gave the other guy money, but I'm only asking for 15%. Forget it. Call me when you have to fix the gate, and then they do.
I will say this. They installed the gate. I paid them after. They didn't even ask for a deposit, so I won't.
Genius.
Yeah, they were good people. I mean, it's made out of paper mache, but it should be fine. No, I'm kidding. The guys did a great job. Jimmy, talk a little bit though. I mean, because you said mom and pop, you're doing pole fencing. Mm-hmm. Structural steel really changed the game for you.
Oh, it changed the game for us completely. The only people in the Valley that were doing structural steel at the time were White Steel out in India, and they kind of had the monopoly on it all. And then Saddleback Welding came from Orange County, started trying to get in to mix it, and all of a sudden there was 3 of us. And then with our reputation of being on time, being ahead of time, being cooperative, being easy to communicate with, we just started taking over the market immediately.
So you work Classic Club.
Yeah. So
other projects in town?
The clubhouse at Canyons of Bighorn. Let's see. We've done so much out here. It's crazy. We're doing a lot out at the racetrack now, out at Thermal Club.
Really?
A lot of those houses and the club. That place is fantastic.
It is.
It's way out there, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's a haul from.
Yeah.
You get to spend time out there?
No.
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 All right. Well, he's not getting me in.
I wasted a couple years doing radio in the morning, and
So let's talk about that. I was in your intro. We were talking. It was the intro from your radio program. Let's talk about.
There was like 4 incarnations of the radio program. It started off with the Fantasy Warlock. He had a friend of mine was working with John doing his morning show, and he said, "Oh, my buddy does fantasy sports. He's a genius. He'd be a good show like for Saturday night." So on Saturday nights, I started doing a fantasy football show. And then one day I filled in for my friend as he had teeth removed. And it was a whole different morning show. We had a lot of fun, and it was great. And then like a couple weeks later, he wasn't there anymore. And John's like, "You want to do the morning show?" I'm like, "No, man, that's messed up. I look really bad with my buddy if I'm now doing his morning show." But I'll do one before that one. And he hired somebody else to do the main morning show. And I did like a pre-morning show with Shelly, and it was kind of fun. And then that didn't work, so we ended up doing a morning show.
Thank you for not telling anybody that the guy who lost his teeth, it was because the program director took them out.
Yeah, it was a mess. But, so then it became...
I miss iHub Radio.
I do, too. I had a lot of fun because it was like a quarter mile from my house in Palm Springs. It was like, this is great. I could go in there in my Speedo. It was awesome. But, so I had a lot of fun doing that. And then it was like the morning show Better Than Working, as I think was the one incarnation of it. And then the pandemic hit. Everything went on hold. And then we started doing one from my office. Well, we went back to the studio, and then we ended up doing one from my office. Yeah, I think we had another guy come in, and it was
the
like
Jimmy Francisco show.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
Quite original.
It was so original. Yeah, he didn't want to use Better Than Working.
Where'd you come up with the name?
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
They had to find somebody named Jimmy Francisco because
We
they don't.
needed an Italian show.
Yeah, and I had a lot of fun with it, but I drove him nuts because, he had these forms, and he does radio the right way. Hey, I want you to write out what you're going to talk about, have it organized, have it spaced out so you know what you're going to do every hour, and I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. I never gave him one.
Yeah, he did that with me too.
And I walk in and just whatever mood I was in, whatever I felt at that moment, whatever popped up on the computer screen or Shelley played in the intro, it was like we went off. And then I don't even know half the stuff we talked about.
Was there any kind of theme?
Yeah, just ADHD radio. I think it was pretty much it. It drove him insane. I know it did, and I feel for
It
him.
was actually really fun.
We did have a lot of fun though.
Those are the most fun kinds of radio.
Yeah,
shows.
we'd get into
We'd
get in these serious life conversations, and everything would be like and like talking about people and be nice to each other. Why can't we just be kind to each other? And then the next day it's like this jamoke behind me at Starbucks. Do you believe these people?
You should have seen the arm wrestling matches between Jimmy and Dan McGrath.
Oh, because Dan's a big, tall guy.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan's got a height advantage there.
Who won?
Well, I have a vagina advantage, so I did.
I'm not even sure what that means.
I don't either. And that's what I mean. This is what happened on my radio show.
Show description.
This is what happened on the radio show, and then it's off the rails, and then everybody's like, "What the hell just happened?"
So there really
I don't know,
wasn't.
but that was funny.
There wasn't a pandemic. John just said, "Hey, there's a problem. We can't do your show anymore."
That wasn't in his intro. He didn't include that in the intro. Oddly.
That's right. So give us a highlight from the show.
I really
I think he just
enjoyed my favorite. We interviewed Roy Firestone one day.
Really?
And that was so awesome. And he was supposed to be on for a segment, lasted almost an hour, I think. And we just talked about his history of interviewing people and then his new love of performing and his whole act he's doing. And it was awesome. And then at the end of it, I told him, I said, hey, I have Bernard Hopkins coming in the end of the week, the former middleweight champ. I'm going to Roy Firestone his ass. And Roy's like, what? I said, I'm going to make his ass cry. I'm going to get him crying before the credits finish on intro. He's like, no way. That guy is so tough. There's absolutely no way. So Bernard comes in, and I told Shelley, Bernard's song he walked into was Frank Sinatra's My Way. It was very emotional for Bernard Hopkins. He always did it his way. He was in jail. He came out. He came from nothing. He's the champ. And I said, I know it's going to get him. Because I'm from back east. He's a Philly boy. I was wearing an Eagles jersey that day. He knew. He walked in. He's like, oh, my people. He sat down. He puts the headphones on. It starts. And boom, tears. And I'm like, and he starts crying. And he's talking to me like, damn, dog, you got me. That song means so much. So much. 20 seconds later, on the screen, bink, messages. You get the text messages in. You freaking did it. It was Roy Firestone. And I'm like, yes.
Oh, that's
so that was my
awesome.
favorite. I think that was my favorite moment.
That's fantastic.
That was the best.
I got it. How'd you get Bernard Hopkins on your radio
Well, John
show?
had this relationship with the people with the casino and Fantasy Springs
they do
and
the
De La Hoya and all that.
Got
So
it.
they would always have these guys come in. So we did Buster Douglas was the first interview from them, and then it was
The
Bernard.
Golden Boy?
Golden Boy. Yeah, Golden Boy. Yeah, and then it was Bernard, and then Michael Moore before the pandemic hit. And the Michael Moore conversation went really deep. It went from cordial to all of a sudden talking about how boxers don't have a players union per se, like the NHL, the NFL, and everything, and the boxers don't get taken care of. Right. And we just had this amazing intellectual conversation about this, and I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Well, that was a big deal to him.
Yeah, it was. And I'm like, you beat George Foreman. Right. Let's talk about this. It was like, but it was really cool. But that's the way the radio show went for me. We'd be talking, and then we'd connect on something, and then there we go. But that was really an amazing conversation. And with Buster, it was funny. We ended up talking about chicken wings for about 25 minutes.
Equally, it was like conversation.
Yeah, it was so in depth. It was like, but you got to come to, and I have a standing invitation to Ohio where he lives. He lives near Chappelle too. He's like, you got to come out. There's a chicken wing place there. You're gonna love it. And I'm like, well, we'll see. And but he was awesome.
I would take him up on that. That's a good invite.
Yeah.
That's a good invite.
Yeah.
Talk about balancing this. I mean, because you're obviously still running your company along with your wife.
Yep.
Maybe you just kind of said, honey, you handle this. I'm going to do radio.
She's everybody at the office she calls her La Patrona, and I'm El Tiburon, which is the shark. So La Patrona runs things, and El Tiburon swims around like a great white shark, nice and quiet. Everything's cool. But as soon as he smells blood, he's going to attack real quick, and then he's going to go back to swimming real calm. So don't piss him off. So it kind of runs itself now, which lets me do radio shows. And then it morphed into now coaching soccer and then building a soccer club and going crazy with that.
And also being an expert in fantasy football.
Yeah, that started in the early 90s.
This could take the next 45 minutes.
Yeah,
Let's go.
That started in the early 90s when I was in college at USD. And some guys from the YMCA, all the athletic directors from the YMCA started this fantasy football league. Like, what the hell's that? And they're like, well, it's like, I'm like, oh, we kind of used to do that when we were kids, but with baseball cards and then different things, and we'd keep stats and take bets on them. Jersey, I bet Schmidt goes 0 for 20 in the next 20 at-bats, you know? What are the odds?
Stratomatic.
Yeah, exactly. So I joined this league, and I'm like, oh, this was so much fun. And we had a great time. It was all the, little directors of the sports programs at the different YMCAs in San Diego. And I was working at the one in Mission Valley, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then a buddy of mine ends up being the guru. You ever John Hansen?
Yeah.
Guru? We went to the same high school in Jersey, Epsigami High School. He was a senior when I was a freshman. So 2 years later, I'm like, who the hell is that? Is that Hansen? He's like on this radio show, and he's talking about fantasy football on Jim Rome's show, I think it was, at night.
Yeah, Rome is burning.
Yeah, no, this is like Jim Rome's early shows in San Diego. And he was on whatever the hell that station was, the Mighty 690. Extra, and then became Extra, yeah. So and I'm like, is that freaking John Hansen? Like, oh my God, the guru. Now he's the guru for fantasy football, and we never connected, and I'm like, man, I really kind of missed that boat, like getting involved in that early enough. And then when the internet hit, fantasy football just went crazy. Because we were doing it for about 10 years with the newspaper on Monday morning and Tuesday taking the stats, and you had to agree on what newspaper the stats were coming from or they didn't count.
Right, it was difficult before the internet. Now it's a lot easier, and Randy's much more of a fantasy football guy than I am. I've dabbled in it, and I don't love it.
Let's play for money.
Well, when they started giving points, like if you got an interception, you got 2 points. Like now, that's not how it works. Now it's just Dungeons and Dragons for football. Like, you're making
insane.
stuff up. You're making stuff up.
Yeah,
don't make stuff up. If you abide by the rules of real football, but apply it to the players, and then I can get into it. But when you start just
you're out of my league.
It has gone completely
in a lot of ways.
Insane. I have a league that I'm running now, like a ghost league, and I've been playing with the scoring format for about 2 years. Because so many things change all the time and all the rules change, and everybody wants points for their players for all the right stuff, and they need to be getting points taken away for the wrong stuff. Missed field goals, longer touchdowns, shorter touchdowns, those kind of things. Was it a handoff? The quarterback shouldn't get it's a 4-yard pass, so why is he getting? And I'm like, it's still a touchdown.
But I mean, you obviously, you're very into it and you love it. I mean, for me, I guess my issue is like, it becomes more fantasy than football when you start saying, okay, like a 60-yard touchdown's worth 10 points, and a regular touchdown's worth 6.
Have you done fantasy in any other sports?
I have done every sport you can imagine. In fact, when we did the radio show, you remember when I did with we were just laughing one night. I said, you know what? I'm going to go online right now, and I'm going to join some international soccer league, fantasy soccer league. So we went on, and I found one from Spain, and it was a La Liga fantasy soccer league. And I got in, paid, and I was already like a week behind, so I missed the first week, but I got in, and they accepted me in, and everybody there was from Spain, and they live for football. They did not like me, because I would go on, and I would talk smack on their webpage.
They don't trash talk in those leagues?
They were trash talking me the whole time. It was great. But I would go on and I would put it in German, I would put it in Italian. I would put it in English. And then, I put it in French, and then I would, in parentheses, I'm like, Canadian French, and just messing with them. But I started, like, wire to wire after that first week. I started killing them. And they were not happy about it. And I kept talking smack. And it was the funniest thing ever. And by the end of the season, I won, and I'm like, where's my money, And it's like, never got paid. But it's okay.
Football was the only one I could stay with because I tried ice hockey fantasy.
Oh, that was my favorite.
And I literally had to be watching it.
Fantasy?
Fantasy league.
Ice hockey?
Yeah. And you literally had to... things were happening 15 times a day. I couldn't even get my job done because I was watching the waiver wires. And
I loved fantasy hockey because I just wanted to beat my friends when they said... They were always trying to get me like, hey, we're doing a hockey league. We want you in it because they figured they'd take my money then, and it never worked. I figure it out, and then I'm going to kill you. And, there's a way to win these things. It's like, we always joke around about, do you gamble? I'm like, no, I'm Italian. I only gamble if I know I'm going to win. So
have you had
all
lady?
those things are fixed, really. It's just a matter of how to find a fix.
Well, no one likes to break their friends' kneecaps. It's just,
no, but I love busting my friends' balls more than anything. And at the end of the football season or the hockey season, drinking out of the big cup at the draft the following year, making them... like, hey, look, my name's on it like the last 7 years. Are you guys going to take this from me or what? That's the best. But the hockey one is tough because you have to keep track of ice time, and there's so many variables.
And baseball was the same way. It was crazy.
Well, you'd love the baseball league I have. We've had this league for 25 years. We have minor league systems, the whole deal. So you have a franchise, and you have a whole minor league system. It's insane.
Randy, I'm not that smart.
Now that you're retired, you can do this.
Yeah, but I'm not any smarter just because I'm retired.
Well, you have more time.
So, the precursors for this is a story I was just thinking of a couple of days ago, precursors to fantasy football. 1967, I lived in Fremont, California, and the newspaper did a...
God, I was still an itch in my daddy's pants.
I don't even want to tell you where that itch came from. Anyway, the Fremont Argus newspaper did a weekly football pool. And readers would write in and make their picks. One week, my mom won. This is 1967. Yeah, except there wasn't a man in town that was happy about it. So what the Argus did to make everybody feel better is they quoted my mom as saying, when they said, how did you pick your teams? By their uniforms. That's what the paper said. My mom, I've never seen her angry or in her life.
Wow.
I know more about football than anybody in this town. I don't even know what uniforms they have. Yeah. So women have become a big part. We had a woman in our league this last time that got to the championship game against me.
Yeah, I have a picture of my sister and I at Christmas about 12 years ago, and we're both sitting there with our laptops like this, showing I just won my fantasy title, and she just won hers, and we're like, and it's like the dumbest picture ever.
So which quarterback are the 49ers going to play this year?
You're better off with your mom at quarterback, I'll be honest with you.
She's dead,
Honestly,
so I don't think that's going to do much.
Well,
sorry about it.
I've seen some of their backups.
You know what? Purdy, all of them.
I'm going to tell you something very quickly, a little aside.
Okay.
In the interest of diversity, equity, and inclusion, when you say that a woman reached the championship game against you, don't sound surprised. Okay. Just try to help you out there.
I've been married 42 years, and I have not learned all my lessons yet. I have to say.
That should come not as a shock to you.
Yeah, we're coming up on our 30th, and my wife still is like, why do you do fantasy sports? I'm like, I don't know. Would you rather me chasing you around all night? No, keep doing it. It's all good.
Is she involved in any of them?
No. Not even it. No interest whatsoever.
So talk to us about the soccer, because you've gotten involved. You've built a soccer club. This is competitive?
When I was in San Diego in college, I ran a sports program for a YMCA down there. So we did indoor soccer, outdoor soccer, basketball, floor hockey, the whole deal. And had started coaching club basketball and soccer down there on the side, trying to make money and hustling because I was paying my own way through USD. And the University of Spoiled Daughters was pretty expensive for a Jersey boy. Yeah, so I know. I went down there. I'm like, oh my God, it lives for the name. And you're spoiled. And all these other girls are spoiled, and I'm just this big jamoke sitting there, just like, forget about it. Yeah. So I started coaching, and I really loved coaching, and I loved connecting with kids because I had a bunch of jerk coaches when I grew up, and everybody's yelling, and I played every sport, and I always thought eventually I'd love to coach and help maybe give the kids what I wish I would have had. So that passed, and I moved back up here, and I started coaching immediately up here, with the YMCA up here in basketball, found some soccer to coach, and then, started traveling with my wife before we had kids. And then once we had kids, I stopped coaching completely, and then a few years later, my daughter decided she wanted to play soccer. Oh. The other daughter went to dance, and I'm like, perfect, because I know nothing about dance. I could just be a dance dad and drop you off and come pick you up, hang out with the moms. This is fantastic. But
hang out with the moms.
No, that never worked because my wife hung out with the moms, and I ended up with soccer with the little one. And
so you're a soccer mom.
The first couple of years, one of the girls from our team, one of our girls that went off to college to play last year, sent me. I have a thing at home. I should have brought it. It says "World's Best Soccer Mom." And it's a painting she made, and there's me in the corner. I'm like, oh, is that what I look like?
That's awesome.
But my daughter started, and I didn't want to coach my kid. I've seen that game way too many times. I'm like, this never works on any level. So I just sat back and just watched, and I'm just sitting there on the sideline just like, and the coach, hey, Jim, do you know anything about coaching and soccer? I'm like, yes. And then it was on. And then 4 months later, can you be on our board at AYSO? Can you do this? So can you coach? And I'm like, well, I'm already a licensed coaching trainer, so I can help your coaches. I'll train the younger coaches and give them stuff to do. And so I started doing that, coaching my daughter's team, and then it was the all-star teams. And then they got to a point where they were too good for AYSO, and they needed to go to the club level. And the club level is very difficult, a lot of travel, a lot of money involved.
A lot of travel.
Whether it's softball, basketball, soccer especially now. And, with the Women's World Cup taking off from 99 all the way through, women's soccer just exploded.
Yeah.
So it became this money grab for youth sports. And I saw that coming with the money grab, but it was like really difficult to not go play club. You needed to if you wanted to get exposure and you wanted to go to college and all those things.
Right. That was our daughter did club volleyball.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So we put her in club with a few of her friends from the All-Star teams, sat back again as a dad. It was a local club here in Palm Desert. We'll shower nameless, but it begins with Palm Desert and ends with Soccer Club. And they had
pretty
the girls had a dad coach to start, and his daughter was the goalkeeper. Nicest guy in the world, nicest kid in the world, terrible goalkeeper, and he had never coached before. And I'm like, I have all these people paying all this money for club soccer, and the coach doesn't know what he's doing. And then he would ask me questions and then do the opposite. And I'm like, oh, God. So I'm like, this is terrible.
Told him the opposite.
So then it was like...
So you had him whacked.
So 6 months, 5 different coaches in 6 months. And then they're rotating back through. And I'm like, the girls are not... This is not what the parents are like freaking out. Like, coach, what the hell? And I'm like, we'll figure it out. And then as time went on, I kept asking the question, who is going to coach them going forward? What's the plan for tournaments? What's their development plan? Never got an answer. And I said, well, I'm pulling my daughter. She's losing interest. She's hating this now. And then all the other parents followed and said, can we do something? And I said, fine. So I put a team together with them. And then it became a team that I said, I will put it together and I will ride this out with these girls till they graduate high school. And then that's it. If my daughter decides to play basketball or never plays again, I will stay and see it through with these girls. I'll get them sponsored. I'll sponsor it myself for now. Found another club in Cathedral City. They took us in, let us do our own thing. He was happy just to get paid up front. And then, hey, do whatever you want. I'm like, yeah, we're out of here. We're going to be over here, but we'll wear your colors. And every year they got better and better, and more kids started coming to the team, and everybody's word got out, and it started becoming a monster.
Wow.
By the time they graduated, 9 girls went on to soccer scholarships, 6 went on for academic scholarships to college.
So you now have a reputation in town.
So as they're graduating out, we have these girls a year younger that are like on the team.
And
you
can't abandon them.
Can't abandon them. So I'm like, well, we'll just keep building around them.
So how many years have you been doing it?
Well, it's been about 8-9 years again. And then they graduate out, but now we have an 05 team. And then this other 07 team whose coach abandoned them after going to the Nationals. They don't know what to do. So they came in. So now we have 2 teams. And I'm like, we need Fields, and I don't want to be a part of this club anymore because he's not cooperating the right way. I told him, we'll run the high school stuff and get it the right way. We already know what we're doing. We know how to get these kids seen, talking to coaches, explaining to them and their parents, this is how you email a coach. This is how you do it. Take the game film, because we film everything, send them this. He had wanted no part of it. My club, my rules. He just wanted money. And I'm like, okay, well, we're out. So we'll just do it on our own. So I called up our friends in Ukaipa, the Spartans, and said, we're going to be your desert region. I'll find our own fields. and we're just going to use your 501(c), and we're going to be a part of you, but we're going to do. I don't want to have to do it that, but here's what we're doing. They're like, perfect, go do it. And then we're like, okay, but we need 5 teams if we're going to host games in the desert because we didn't want to have all our games away. So we developed a baby team of 7-year-olds, and then the 10-year-olds, because I'm looking around at practice. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute, how old's your little sister? How old's your little sister? How old's your little brother? And now we had 5 teams last year, and now we have 8 this year.
Wow.
The Chairman Darryl out at the Spotlight 29,
yes.
Darryl's the greatest. He had a nice conversation with him. He's like, use our fields. They're yours. So We've been using the grass out there at Coachella Crossroads for almost 2 years now. They've been wonderful hosts. We love having our own security force. It's fantastic.
How much traveling are you having to do?
Well, I do a lot.
Yeah.
Like we just got back from, we've been in Oceanside, Temecula, Phoenix this year. We've been down in San Diego, Oceanside, and Temecula a lot. But we're getting ready. We'll be in Irvine in 2 weeks, followed by Oceanside, and then the day of the finals, we have to get in the car and drive up to Denver for national finals for our older girls team.
Oh my goodness.
So 17 hours straight there to get there a few hours before the first game on Tuesday. And then the girls will all be up there a day and a half before. And I have a buddy up there that's a coach. It's going to train them up there in the altitude for a day or so before they have to play. We did that last year because we took 2 teams to the MPL finals.
What age groups participate in this?
So we have the oldest age group is basically girls going into their senior year. And that's made up of juniors and seniors. And then we have a team that's made up of freshmen and sophomores. And that's our 08-born team. So we have an 06-born team and an 08-born team. We have 2 2012-born teams, an A and a B, a developmental squad feeding the main team. And then we have 2015 girls, which is babies, 7, 8-year-olds. And they're hysterical. They've won like the last 5 tournaments in a row. They're like walking around flexing on everybody. And we're like, oh my God, we're turning them and their parents into monsters, you know? It's like,
now, if you're a parent of somebody on a comp team, you probably have to have like 9 jobs just to support.
Yeah, so that's kind of why we did it. It was easy the first year with just 1 team. And then as it went to 2 teams, 3 teams, 5 teams, my wife and my accountant are like, dude, what are you doing? Like, seriously, you realize how much money you're spending on all this stuff? I'm like, really? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, we're not donating anywhere else. Just write it off, man. You know, it's because years ago,
it's a write-off.
When I started talking about doing the thing with our daughter's team, you know, my wife and I were at that kind of crossroads with community. Because, you know, we're all a part of this community. And the easiest thing to do for every one of us in community service is just write a check. You know, someone's like, hey, you know, can you help out with this? Sure. Here's a check or whatever. But we always wanted to be more than that. My father-in-law got us in Lions Club, like right out of college. And, you know, we were the grunts for the Lions Club, and all the old-timers in Palm Springs are like, well, you got to pay your dues. I'm like, pay my dues? I'm like, community service. What the f*** are you talking about? Pay my dues? Jeez. But, you know, we learned quick. It's like, you know, you need to be involved to make sure whatever you're giving is actually going in the right place.
Yeah.
So we were involved with raising money for the Y, and the Y out here is run very well, but they have so much cost on just keeping it going that when you raise money every year for a new facility that we're still waiting on after 23 years of raising millions for, it still hasn't happened, you start getting a little jaded. You're like, look, we give all this money, we do all this stuff, we know it's good, we know it can be good, we know some people are doing the right thing, and even the ones that want to do the right thing can't because they still have to pay this, and then the building, you know, the plumbing went out, and then, you know, things just snowball in these organizations. So I'm like, well, here, we're just going to take care of this group of kids, and we know exactly the benefit. They're going to be better human beings.
Yeah.
So all the girls that come through the program, and now the boys, we have boys this year, the parents, we sit them down and go, it's about your kid first and foremost. It's not about the team or the club. The team is the vessel, the club is the mothership to get your kid where they want to go. Along the way, communication, consistency, stability, accountability, these are the most important things. Consistency. If they're here and they're showing up and putting in the work and listening, they're going to go. And whether it's soccer or not, you know, like I love the kids that go on academic scholarship and not soccer, because it's like we had a girl that went last year. Sorry, coach, I didn't know how to tell you I'm not going to play in college. I'm like, yeah, I know it sucks, but you're going to Berkeley on academic scholarship.
You might be okay.
Super proud of you for that. Like, who cares? I don't care if you ever kick a ball again, because when you first joined this team in 7th grade, I thought you were special ed. And she wasn't going to class. She's skipping class in 7th grade, skipping school. And I'm like, and now she's going to Berkeley on academic scholarship, and I couldn't be more proud of the kid. And,
What's the longest you've coached any one kid besides your own?
well, my daughter ended up getting hurt in 2018, tore her knee, came back to practice after the surgery, tore the other knee, first practice back.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and so she stopped playing, but I kept going with the team for the 4 years after that because I told them I would. And then it just morphed into all this. But the longest for one team was probably that team was 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's at those ages, that's something.
Yeah, so it's kind of exciting now that we have the little 2015s because, like, if we keep this little group of girls together and we keep adding to it, we're going to have them for 11 years. That's hysterical.
It's fantastic, though. I mean,
but,
we watch these kids grow up and, and
hopefully become good human beings.
Yeah.
We tell the parents all the time and people that want to donate or don't donate, I'm like, look, one of these kids could be standing over you on an operating table one day.
And they'll remember if you donated.
Yeah, that's right.
One of these kids might pull you over and either give you a ticket or not give you a ticket. One of these kids might show up to fix your air conditioner. You never know. But the more we give to them to make them better human beings, the easier it's going to be for us later.
Where did this part come from you? This community involvement, the work with
my family
philanthropy.
Sucked back home. And
You just didn't want to
mess.
suck?
And I'm like, I'm going to be better than this. My mom and dad are psychopath, drug addict, alcoholic messes that were divorced and broken up our whole life.
Wait, are you being serious right now?
I'm dead serious. So, one of my best friend's fathers pulled me aside when I was getting in a little trouble when I was about 4th, 5th grade, and he said, you know what? You're going to be just like your parents if you don't straighten out. You're very smart. But be better than them. Do better.
And that meant something to you at the time.
And he's like, stop hanging around with these a-holes. Yeah. And I'm like, Judge Guerrero, that's your son. He goes, my son is an a-hole. He's in 5th grade. I'm like, he's an a-hole. Freshman year in high school. Hey, Judge, how you doing? Told you my son was an a-hole. I'm like, I know. He's like, you doing good? Yeah, I'm doing great. But that was our county judge. Judge Guerrero was a good friend of our families, and I was always hanging out with his son, Jason. And, Jason ended up in jail, just like a lot of the Italians and friends of mine that I grew up with near Atlantic City. But he was that was big. And then another family friend, family just like, hey, be better. Don't let your parents' situation affect you. It has nothing to do with you. They're their own problem. Be the best you can be.
Yeah.
So I remembered all that, and I wanted to bring that to more people, more kids.
Was philanthropy a big part of Palm Springs Welding?
Oh, yeah. Mike was a Lions Club member.
This is your father.
Yeah, my father-in-law, Marcel Latulip, went by Mike. Yeah, he donated wherever he could with everything, and he was very active with Lions Club. He was the one that was doing all the work. He was the one that, they're serving drinks at the car auction. He's the one schlepping the drinks and yelling at me for putting too much tequila. Hey, that costs money. I'm like, shut up. These people keep coming back buying because I'm getting them shit-faced. Oh, God, but, yeah, it was, Mike, brought that part in. It's like if you have, how much do you really need? Can you give without hurting your family? Yeah. And that was the thing. So now I'm getting to that point where my accountant and my wife are like, dude, hey, seriously.
Slow down.
It's either charity or soccer.
8 teams? So come on, man. Pump the brakes. Start finding sponsors.
All right. You are obviously passionate about a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell that you love your business, but
yes.
you've gotten that to the point where, as you said, it sort of runs itself.
Yeah.
What's your biggest passion?
Ooh.
I mean, is it the kids?
It's my own kids. I mean, my family. I mean, it has to start at home, and that's what I try to tell our kids from soccer, too, and the parents. Take care of yours at home first, and then work out. Because if you're not raising solid people at home and taking care of them, being passionate about them and raising them, you're just going to add to the problem. Yeah. So when your kid's being an a-hole at practice and I tell you about it, don't blame me. Look in the mirror, right? I get tired of hearing the stories about a kid's being a total jerk at school, and then they go to a parent conference and the parents are yelling at the teacher. It's the teacher's fault that the kid keeps showing up being a jerk every day in class, and the teachers have no power to deal with that, which is terrible.
Well, it's a huge problem.
Huge. I mean, accountability has gone way out.
It is almost non-existent in a lot of places.
Yep.
Well, the worst 2 years of my life, I can honestly say this, were spent as the Little League president up in Northern California. And the problem was not the kids. It was never the kids.
Never.
It was
We joke about it all the
parents.
time. In fact, I was talking to a parent today. I said, if you and us can kind of get out of their way, they're just going to be fine. Yeah. Don't fight with us. Either trust it. If we're not for you, it's okay. We're not mad at you. If your kid is not elite, go play AYSO. Go let them have fun. sometimes the parents want it more than the kids. The kids are just happy to be with their friends. But it's our job, and this is the part where it's like George Carlin used to say, everybody loves that you're honest until you're honest with them. Then you're just an a-hole, right?
I like that.
But it's true, because the hardest part is like, look, I don't think little Susie is really up for the challenge. Why do you say that? Well, it takes her 45 minutes to get her cleats on while she's joking around and trying to pants her friends. And she cries when she has to go to the bathroom by herself. And she's 14.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like Olympic material.
Yeah. Well, so it's like we're very fair with playing time, but you have to earn it. We said, look, if you're this is like getting your first scholarship. If you're in, you're in, but you got to keep it, or there's going to be somebody else here to take your spot, right? So it's like life.
Yeah.
You're at your job. Someone wants your job, and you want the job ahead of you, and so forth.
So you give out a lot of participation trophies. It sounds like.
Hell no. No,
He brought one for us.
I just said that to see the pain on his face.
It's funny you mentioned the participation trophy, because in '93, right before I left the YMCA in San Diego, we had a big discussion with the executives from all the youth sports programs in San Diego County YMCA. They wanted, and they did. And I'm glad I was out at that point. They eliminated first place, second place, third place. They eliminated all-star teams, and they just wanted everybody to get participation awards and just everybody have fun and come in. And I'm like, okay. I was the only one that voted against it, and I couldn't believe some of the other guys just went along with it. But they needed their jobs, and they were all YMCA corporate for life. But they were just like, okay, boss. I'm like, but the argument was simple. If you take away that kind of competitive spirit and drive, what do kids have to be motivated for? So I remember being a kid, taking second place, watching those guys at the banquet going and getting their first place trophies, and looking at my teammates going, that's us next year. We're not doing that again. And then you get better, and you want to go, and you want to work to get better. It's like anything in life. It's like, if I just show up at work and we're all getting paid the same, well, why do I really need to work? So we almost killed a generation and a half or two generations of kids by taking away competitive drive.
Well, we're not doing anybody any favors.
No.
Because when you get out into the workforce,
Nope.
I mean, our television station is a great place to work. We don't give out participation trophies. You got to come in and do your job every day.
Yeah.
And the idea is to be the best at what you do. And
You better go get Patrick his damn coffee, cut his toenails
And
when he
fast.
says,
And do it
on
fast.
time.
Yeah. I mean,
you pay your dues.
I'm tired of showing up at the station.
We have eliminated the whole idea of learning and paying your dues and growing and competing.
well, and I think certainly post-pandemic, we see that. There are a lot of places that can't hire enough people, and it's not that there aren't enough warm bodies out there, but we've sort of eliminated a little bit of work ethic in it's
true.
It's unfortunate.
I see it in our business.
We're seeing it. I'm sure you do.
Trying to get younger, like our group of guys is getting old. A lot of them are in their 50s now.
And it's not
60.
a young man's job.
It is not. And
I mean, not an old man's
we
job.
can't get young guys in because they don't want to get dirty. They don't want to work. They want to just sit at home, look at porn, play video games, and sit in the bedroom. They don't want to do anything.
I'm sorry I was late for the podcast.
You're
but-
painting a bad picture of those activities, and I don't know why.
Damn blue light.
Everything has its place.
Yeah. Oh my God. If we had the internet when we were kids, I probably would have never left the house. You know what I mean?
This is going to be the one podcast that Andrea actually listens
She
to.
will listen to. You must stop that podcast now.
Wait a minute. I can't find my cousin's Playboys. What the hell? Well, the internet? What a game changer.
What a game changer. And
Right?
it's free. Like,
Oh my God, this is crazy.
So through all of this stuff that you've done in the Valley, the welding company, the important historical work that you've done, growing a new generation of people that hopefully will understand the importance of achieving later in life, you've run into some characters in this town that people know.
Yeah.
The name Larry Ellison came up a couple of times.
Larry,
You have a relationship with Larry?
we did a bunch of stuff up at Porcupine Creek when he bought it. We did a bunch of ironwork, and after he bought the island in Lanai, he decided to rip apart an old motel and turn it into a resort. He still has his Four Seasons on the water, but he wanted to make a super Four Seasons on the other side of the island. And this island's tiny. It's just a little runway, one stoplight, some locals, and a shitload of deer. Can't believe how many deer are on this thing. Best venison I've ever had.
That's why he serves it at
It's unreal. Unbelievable. So they were remodeling everything, and they had these really killer old handrails, guardrails for these patios that they wanted to use, but they needed to redo the building, and they couldn't use the old ones. But they wanted the same design, and it's all solid steel. It has to be solid because you're on an island. It's very humid, and
all
it's going to rust.
Water,
Yeah. So they couldn't get somebody over there to do it and do it right. So their architect, Larry and the architect, were like, call Palm Springs Welding, see what they can do. So we flew out there, and 24 hours later, flying back, and then we did all the railing, and we sent it over, and it's up and it's beautiful.
What made Larry think of you? Had you done previous work?
Yeah, we did stuff at their house, and other people were saying, no, that can't be done. And I'm like, bullshit, anything can be done. Yeah. How much do you want to pay?
That's right. Everything, great craftsmanship comes at a price.
Right, and I swear, once we sent them the price on the stuff we did for them over there in Lanai, I'm like, damn it, they signed that way too quick.
That's right.
I'm like, this sounds way too expensive.
Yeah.
And but it wasn't. It was fair. We made some money on it, but we didn't even have to go over there. We just fabbed it, painted it, and put it in a container, and they sent the special paint, and then we just put it in a container. They took it and shipped it over there.
I would have demanded to go over there, though.
Oh, I went back and checked it out.
You got to check. Come on, there's got to be an inspection.
Come on,
got to be an inspection.
Yeah, it was great watching Kavanaugh get reamed in front of Congress before he became a Supreme Court Justice with some locals in this little thing eating spam and eggs. It was the best. I'm like, this is the best. These people are like, who is this guy? He looks like a creep. It was so funny.
He likes beer.
Yeah, he likes beer.
I really like beer.
Yeah, it was so funny. But I'm like, this is like on the other side of the world on an island, and we're watching this at this little restaurant. It was hysterical. But yeah, it's a beautiful island.
You are like a shotgun. You're all over the place.
I'm telling you, ADHD radio at its finest.
So, if you had to pick one thing, what would it be?
Right now?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying this.
Sitting here?
You guys want to do this every night? Let's do this every night. I'll bring weenies. It'll be fantastic.
Just show up every night.
Randy is continually auditioning for the role of sidekick.
I'm hanging on weekly. You look good over here. I have a question for you. So when we first started this podcast, the premise was going to be kind of music oriented.
Oh, yeah. Well, I love music.
And one of the things that we were going to ask people is, were there songs? Was there music that meant something in your life where you hear that record today and you go right back there?
It was funny. We just had this conversation on a 7-hour soccer drive. My assistant coach and I co-coach Tom. My assistant coach. He's the main head of coaching. I run the thing now. So let's give him his due. But he's a genius. And we were talking about music and favorite songs and what they meant. And, the one we were listening to, and Time, Pink Floyd came on, and ticking away the moments that make up a dull day. Yeah. You fritter and waste the hours in an offhand way, and that meaning of, kicking, and then the whole thing about, you missed the starting gun. Nobody told you when to run, you missed the starting gun. That always resonated when I heard that song when I was a kid. Like, don't miss the starting gun. Get out there, do it. Don't wait. And then where the streets have no name, you too, that line near the end where, I want to go where the streets have no name. And when I go there with you. That's all I can do. It just takes me right to my wife because that was her favorite band. And God, I've seen U2 way too many times. I can't even go see them anymore. They annoy me. I love Bono and everything, but it's like, dude, could you stop it?
I'm sick of Bono.
Stop, dude, stop it, Bono.
Can you do some cover songs, Bono?
Yeah.
I'm tired of your stuff.
It's killing me, buddy.
Freebird.
Yeah.
How about a little King of the Road? Can we get that?
Yeah, we just went back to New York City in May to see him at the Beacon Theater do his book tour thing. And I'm like, it was her Christmas present because I know she really wanted it. And I'm thinking, okay, New York pizza, that's great. We'll do that. And then I'll be able to sit through the show. And I was sitting there for 2 hours like, I just want to get back to the hotel.
I interviewed Bono at the Palm Springs International Film Festival along with The Edge.
He was fantastic, by the way.
But I will tell you this. I could not remember for the life of me The Edge.
Yeah.
And so the whole interview, I'm like, I'm here with Bono and U2. And that guy. Another member of you.
You three.
Thank God about halfway through, he was like, well, me and The Edge here. And I'm like, oh,
it's The Edge. Thank you.
It's like, Jesus.
It's like, what's his name? And then you just try to lead your buddy into finding out what the other person's name is.
Yeah, it was.
We met The Edge in Seattle after on their Pop Mart tour. It was the last night of their tour. And my wife gets the fan club tickets since we were like right out of high school into college. So we flew up for that show. We went to opening night in Vegas, San Diego, Los Angeles, Phoenix. We saw them all over the country, and then it was the last night of the tour in Seattle. And the next morning, they were at the Four Seasons. We were at the hotel right next door. We're at the Starbucks across the street in the corner. Edge comes out with his bodyguard, goes to the car, and then starts walking across the street towards Starbucks. And my wife's like, oh my God, Edge is coming to Starbucks. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. He walks in. So Jimmy starts talking to him. My wife's sitting at the table like this. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Stop embarrassing me, Jimmy.
Oh my God, oh my God. And we're talking. He's like, oh, did you go to the show? I said, yeah, it was great. It was awesome. I said, much better than the opening night. He goes, oh, you were in Vegas? I'm like, oh, dude. He goes, yeah, the technical stuff was terrible. And he goes, but we got it fixed. I said, yeah, I know, because we were in San Diego a few nights later. And he's like, oh, you guys have been all over the place with it. I said, yeah, let me get your coffee. He's like, well, I should buy you coffee. You bought all those tickets. And I'm like, yeah, you should. So I let him buy our coffee. And he bought our coffee. And then I go back and sit down, my wife, and he walked out and took a picture with somebody. And I'm like, oh, man, it's a shame we didn't have a camera. And he walks away, and my wife goes, pulls out a camera. I'm like, dude, like this is your band.
He bought you coffee, and you still didn't get a picture.
I'm like, you're killing me, lady. But it's funny, here in the desert now, it's like you meet so many people. There's so many celebrities here that you just run into at the, we run into Barry Manilow at Las Casuelas downtown all the time. Suzanne Summers everywhere.
Randy and I had lunch the other day at California Pizza Kitchen.
We did.
And as we were walking out, Gary Oldman and his wife were walking in. And I had interviewed Gary at the Palm Springs International. And it was funny because under normal circumstances, I would have stopped and said hello or something. But we were walking out, he was walking in, and he didn't have a vibe like don't talk to me, but like we made eye contact, and it was sort of like the nod, like, yeah, I'm Gary Oldman. And like, I know you are.
I know you are.
And then we just kept going.
I never took my eye off his wife, so I wasn't sure it was Gary Oldman.
How great was that guy in The Professional? As the bad cop.
Yeah. How about everything he's been in?
He's in everything, great in everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
he even made that crappy Dracula good.
I had when he had just done Churchill when he was at the Palm Springs International Film Festival, but I still have a visceral reaction from Air Force One. He played that villain so perfectly that, like, I can't look at Carol like, you are an asshole. I really don't like you.
But hated you forever. Yeah.
I just see him in that. I see that scene of him in The Professional where he's taking those pills dry and he's like, getting his all neck. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah,
let's put some real crazy detail on this, Gary. Like, God, who does that?
But you're right. I mean, there's so many celebrities who either visit here or live here part-time or even full-time. It's a pretty amazing, and I mean, you've watched it grow since the 1980s. The change,
it's amazing.
Is astounding.
I'm amazed at how many recording studios are in town now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Buddies of mine that own a Shag store downtown, and Ron, another good friend of mine who's a tour manager, they opened up a studio in Cathedral City at an old church. They bought the church, gutted the main room, turned it into an amazing studio. Had a hell of an opening party in January. And you're just hanging out in there, and it's like, oh, it's Billy Gibbons and, Duff. And you're like, what? He's like, these guys it's amazing, like, what they've done. And then Matt Sorum, I don't know, from Guns N' Roses, he lives here now, and we got a call at the office. They're like, Jim, can you take this call? I'm like, I don't want to take the call. My wife's like, take the call. I'm like, why? She goes, just take the call. I'm like, yeah, can I help you? Yeah, this is Matt Sorum. I need a gate up at my house. I'm like, hey, Matt Sorum? Like, yeah, I'll come on up. And I went up, and
it was him.
And that was 4 years ago, and we're buddies. Like best buddies. I was hanging out at his studio last night down by Toucans. And he's got a beautiful setup in there. And it's like, well, bringing the music in, it's like, as my life is fizzling from 52 on, I'm finding that love again for music and back. That's where I'm migrating to. So where I'm going, it's probably more along the music side, and then keeping it involved with the kids. And the soccer thing is going to get to a point where it's self-sustained and running on its own, and I can sit back and go make a bunch of loud noise in one of the studios.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's been a delight to have you.
Well, thank you.
And I'm surprised we have not crossed paths before.
I'm an enigma.
You are. You know a lot of people in town, and usually the Italians we stick together. Like normally, there's a meeting.
Well, I thought I was Italian up until 2 years ago, and now I don't hang out with anybody.
We would have drummed you out of the club.
You would have been out. No offense, we would have been right out.
Yeah, that's it.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. That's pretty much Jimmy.
That's Jimmy. Well, Jimmy,
thank you.
Great to have you.
This has been really cool.
really
Besides
fun.
that, I wanted to meet somebody who could help me on my fantasy league this year.
Take my number.
But my takeaway from this, I am so impressed when you spoke about your parents and how they were not role models for you.
No.
And how you have turned yourself into a role model. I think it's a rarity, and it's commendable
You
because
could be a victim or a winner.
and you're a winner, and we appreciate you coming on the program.
A little bit of a wiener, but that's okay.
Well,
That'll be episode 2. Jimmy, this is awesome. Thank you, my
Thanks,
friend.
guys. Anytime.
well, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us for another great episode of Big Conversations Little Bar. Jimmy Francisco, thank you so much for joining us today. Randy Florence.
I can't believe we did it again. I'm going to be back next week. I promise.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Okay,
It's
well-
because somebody took my car and I don't know how to get home.
John and I vote on it after every episode.
I love you, man.
Thank you, John McMullen, for producing. And, of course, thanks to Skip Page at Little Bar for hosting us. You are listening to Big Conversations Little Bar on your favorite podcast platform.
Thanks for listening to Big Conversations Little Bar. Join Randy and Patrick next time as we keep the conversation going right here on Big Conversations Little Bar.